And guys, these rollbacks would allow 16 and 17-year-olds to work 6 consecutive days and up to 8-hour shifts. By the response online, you would think that Florida was saying that they are forcing 5-year-olds out into the swamp to fight alligators.
Tom Sexton is a co-host of the Trillbilly Workers Party podcast. You can find them at the Trillbillies. They have, I don't know, hundreds of thousands of people listening to them as a podcast, which is very. I'm interested in the, Tom's take on the podcast industry generally, because it does seem like podcasts as a genre are pretty kind of secluded from the rest of the media narrative and the discourse or whatever. But huge amounts of people listen to podcasts and the Trillbillies specifically. And it's interesting that their place in the discourse is maybe not reflective of that. So anyway, Tom Sexton, Trillbilly Workers Party, thank you for taking the time to join us to celebrate our Kentucky debut on 88.7 FM WMMT in Whitesburg.
Y'all picked the hip-hop giant in the mountains.
That's right. That's right.
What's going on, fellas? Been a minute.
It has been a minute. It has. Appreciate you taking the time to talk to us. So what is that like being, on a podcast where, hundreds of thousands of folks listen to y'all, and I don't think that y'all really get kind of the attention or relevance in a lot of the discourse that people of similar that get similar numbers in some of the mainstream media that they get. What do you think the reason for that is?
It's probably best that way, honestly. No, I don't know. I mean, it's not something that I've really thought about, to be perfectly honest with you. With to your question on the whole podcast industry writ large, it's like I live in fear of it going the way of the blog and, having to get honest work again, because I'm not filled with work.
Right.
So
you're not excited to go sell your labor?
Yeah, excited. Yeah, to get back up there and actually do. Well, I mean, I say that like I don't have a day job, but it's podcast thing has been a nice supplement to that, and you don't have to worry so much. But I think when you've been in positions like we've all been in, like you're always that nagging feeling of like, well, any day now, pal, the hammer's going to drop on you. So,
right.
But yeah, I don't know. It seems like it's one of those things. It's almost like reflective of the bourbon industry, where you wait for the bubble to pop a little bit, and then it just never does, and it just keeps getting more and more.
We're big bourbon fans here, so that's good.
We do bourbon and podcast on the VLR.
There you go. So speaking of selling your labor to capitalists, there's this video going around of this really, really young kid working at Burger King. This was a couple of weeks back, and the right wing and there's been this push to make it easier for capitalists to have children work for them across the country, particularly in the South, and so.
There was like 13-year-olds working at like Nissan or something down y'all's way?
Yes. Yeah. Well, it was for Hyundai, actually. It was there was people as young as 13, dozens of children working at a Hyundai plant here in Alabama. And in fact, just last week, it was revealed that back in what was it, August, Adam, a 15-year-old died on his first day on the job at a roofing company.
And Alabama's politicians see that and are like, well, the only problem is that's illegal right now. We need to make that legal so we can have more of that.
Yeah, they look at that as like a character building thing for everybody that remains. That's 14 years old and trying to uh, make. I mean, I'm sure we've all did that. I mean, hell, I was hanging drywall when I was, or not much older than that, I guess.
Right.
So.
Well, that was actually one of down in Florida. They have one of these bills, and that was one of the arguments of the author of the bill. They were like, I broke child labor laws when I was 12 and 13, and I've got a company where children have worked for me, and so people who are gonna break the law are gonna do this anyway, so we may as well legalize it, right?
Might as well get some mileage out of this child suffering.
yeah. I mean, just unleash it, right? Unleash capitalism, and we'll have a whole lot of everybody will benefit if this arrangement is more legal than it is today.
Well, I would caution everybody and say this: my character did not benefit one single smidge from hanging drywall at 14 and roofing at 15 and everything else.
Right.
So.
Well, and
just put that to bed.
Yeah, well, and that's
I thought
actually
maybe that was the reason behind the success, right? You were just busting your ass as a middle schooler, and it's all come off. It's all paid off now.
Yeah, you didn't learn your work ethic from that, and it wasn't like just a incredibly formative time in your life.
I tell you, the one thing I did get out of it is the camaraderie. I mean, you guys talk about this, we talk about this, but like, there's a few things like that sort of job site camaraderie, and I think it puts you ahead of the curve socially. I think it puts you ahead of the curve in terms of how to interact with people and interface with the world every day. But that's the real benefit. There's no like sort of hard lessons to be learned by breaking your body down.
Right. Well, and a lot of the things that they say that you can learn on the job is like things that you can also learn in school. One of the things that they said in some of these conservative podcasts was, you learn how to punch a clock, and it's like, you get to school at the same time every day. Like you have to catch the bus at the same time. Like, what do you mean you learn how to punch a clock? Like, what are you talking about? You do that at school.
Giving the whole game away in a way, right? It's like what they really want to do is just make sure they max extract everything they can out of us so that somebody else can, make a fortune while we make a pittance. And
and so
rinse, wash, repeat.
Matt Walsh is one of the people who inserted himself into this conversation. Aren't you a big fan of Matt Walsh?
Yeah, he's good at inserting himself in conversations. That's about it.
So he said, I had my first job when I was 14. I was able to do something productive, earn a bit of money, and learn some basic skills. I cannot understand why people are opposed to this. It's not like we're sending kids down into the mines. What is the problem exactly? And that's actually...
Yet.
Yeah. He's clearly not following politics closely enough, because an Indiana Republican literally introduced a law to legally send 14-year-olds into the mines.
Oh my god!
Like, it's actually, it's funny because that's the most, around any conversation about workplace protections, unions, child labor, the quintessential bad workplace is the mines. Right? Oh, unions, you don't need a union here in this auto manufacturing facility. We're not a coal mine. You don't, children can work here in this, this service industry. It's not a coal mine, right? It's literally the epitome of bad working conditions. This is the place where you need to be most protected, and you need a union, and you need labor laws and all this. And he went to it because of that, because this was the most extreme thing that he could think of. He can't think of anything more extreme than sending 14-year-olds into the coal mines, and Republicans are trying to do that.
Yeah. Which is only 3 feet away from sending them to war. You know what I mean? Like the ultimate character building.
Right. Yeah.
Right. Well, I mean, this wait till if not 2024, maybe about 2028, we'll reduce the draft age. to
Yeah.
14 for more of that character building. I think that's where you're wrong, Jacob, because like you said, the coal mine is the most extreme. That means the most extreme character building.
Right. You're gonna get the most character from the
The
coal
more
mine.
underground you go, the more your character grows. Like,
Who among you striving to be the most pious? We're going to send you underground. That's
You said that maybe we should just continue this to the next logical step and have children being drafted at earlier ages. Terrence was talking about the character benefit that his veteran friends have received from their service. Just on was it on the last episode or maybe the one before that?
Oh yeah.
And it was all extremely beneficial, like zero downsides for them.
Yeah. It shook out perfectly well for all of them, So
There's, I think, one that he roomed with and said that he would find him up at all hours of the night, like hallucinating or I don't know. It was, obviously not good. It was not a good thing. So, there are Republicans that want to send people into the coal mines. But the other part of this is that, what's the big deal with people working at Good Burger when they're, teenagers? And it's like, well, they can. In every state in the country, actually, teenagers are allowed to work in restaurants and service industry and Trader Joe's. It's just that they can't do it for more than like 4 hours on a school day and 8 hours on the weekend or during the summer. And that's like really basically it. You can't work them too late, you can't work them too much, and you can't work them too many days in a row. And so actually, there's not a problem as far as that goes. It's all legal. And the problem is that they're trying to make it more easy for capitalists to do this. And one of the thing that's happening in Alabama is actually we have a requirement for 14 and 15-year-olds that a school sign off, or the educational institution, if they're homeschooled, their parents. But if they're in the public education system, the school has to say this 14-year-old, is doing academically well enough that they can go work. And the bill in Alabama is to get rid of that requirement. Schools can't say no to their children working. And so it's explicitly to allow, 14-year-olds who are failing school to go and work. It's just.
Did y'all have that? Like, I would always hear from time to time growing up, for example, so-and-so like dropped out of school at 14 to go work on the farm or something like that. Like, I would hear stories and I never really knew what that meant, except that like this kid I'd went to school with my whole life, I just never saw him again.
Right.
Or not in that context anyway,
Right.
Like, yeah, that's kind of a weird thing that goes on. It's like, oh yeah, in some places, it's kind of the same thing like how some kids can get like a farm driver's license when they're like 13 or 14 or something like that.
Oh, yeah.
mhm.
Some states, I'm sure that's not everywhere.
Yeah, and it's just wild that they see that and like, we need more of that. Just more of that, no need to go to school. Just go straight to the workforce. I'm sure it has nothing to do with the tight labor market that we have right now.
Yeah.
And the workers that are organizing everywhere. I'm sure it's just a pure coincidence they want to insert more children there.
Yeah.
And so this video was going around and it got this it got the discourse going and the conservatives were very dismayed by people being kind of perturbed by an extremely young kid working at Burger King. He looked like maybe even 11 or 12. Surely he was at least 13 or 14, but it was a very young looking kid. And so that's just kind of off-putting. As an American, I go to Burger King. It's like, I want to be, I want to see people that look like they can drive. So they were very unhappy with the reaction to this video. And Brett Cooper is one of the people at the Daily Wire. She was one of them. Was like, oh, this is crazy. I can't believe the reaction. This is all I see is a kid having fun. We blurred his face because he's under 18, but I promise you, under that he's smiling and he's incredibly.
All I
happy.
see is a kid having it his way.
Yeah, exactly. But there was some positive news that she shared. during this segment that she had about child labor. So let's play this, and Terrence, I'm interested in your thoughts on her positive news.
But guys, it's not all doom and gloom. We actually do have a positive update because in 2023, the number of teens working reached a 14-year high. It had the biggest increase literally since the 90s.
So there you go, 14-year high in children working. Good news.
I wouldn't term that a positive trend. But yeah,
We're trying to go back to the Gilded Age, right?
Yeah.
We've got the Gilded Age inequality. We've got the robber barons like Elon Musk. Like, we need Musk to start wearing a top hat and like a monocle. You know, the old school capitalist robber barons, and just really dress the part. Put the kids back in the coal mines, and it'll be 1880s all over again.
That's exactly right. You know, something I'm doing right now. I'm taking singing lessons. I'm trying to start playing the piano again and different things like that. I grew up in church doing that. I wish like now as an older man that like I would have really dialed in when my brain was spongy. You know what I mean? Because like things are way harder now, and it's like we should be giving kids the freedom to be spongy and learn things and languages and skills, you know, both creative and non-creative and all these things. And instead, like, you know, we're paying them peanuts to like make a fortune for like the local oligarch that owns the Burger King franchise. It's just really, I don't know, it's disheartening, you know? And again, I'm not besmirching hard work or anything like that at all, but, it's just that it's just a little sad, and it's always kids that you know, kids that live in certain neighborhoods don't have to go work it.
Right.
Oh, yeah,
I was going to say
obviously.
that. Yeah, my wife teaches at a very rural school, and it's no surprise it's the poor kids that are tired every day because they were working so much, right? It's not the affluent kids, not that there's many at that school, but yeah, the well-off middle-class kids typically aren't the ones who are working late at night, you know, as teenagers. It's the kids who have to, right? They're paying part of the light bill for mama, you know, if there's a mama at home, right? And so, yeah, it's definitely a distinction between who is actually impacted here. But you said something about learning to sing and getting back into that kind of stuff, and I think that's pretty cool and interesting. And you mentioned language, and that definitely reminds me. Like they always say, the easiest time to learn a language is when you're really young. And so yeah, like the sponginess aspect of their brains, like what are they picking up when they could be picking up so many different things? It's, you know, how to cook French fries.
Right.
It's you know, it's just not the kind of intellectual development one would want for our nation's young people. You know, but hey, it's no big deal. It's just the future.
Well, and Brett actually responded to that almost exactly in response to Florida's attempt to loosen child labor laws, and so she explains actually what Florida's bill would do, and then goes on to say, you know, this is fine, and you're going to have plenty of time to do all of that other, you know, frilly stuff. So let's listen to her explain what's going on in Florida.
And guys, these rollbacks would allow 16 and 17-year-olds to work 6 consecutive days and up to 8-hour shifts. Right now, they're only allowed to work 4.5-hour shifts, I believe, and they can't work that many consecutive days. But by the response online, you would think that Florida was saying that they are forcing 5-year-olds out into the swamp to fight alligators.
Hey, 5 seconds. Just wanted to say that this is only possible because of our donors. If you want to see more of this, then consider donating yourself at tvlr.fm/donate.
Well, yeah, so what she says is she explains the law, which would allow, you know, currently the law in Florida is that you cannot work children too many days in a row. And so one of the things that the law does is it allows you to work children 6 days in a row. And you also can't work children more than 4.5 hours in a school day. And so this
Based on is that like how long, like God rested on the seventh day?
I guess.
but
I was
only
thinking that same thing.
He only worked 4.5 hours a day creating the heavens and the earth.
Well, no, that's what it was before. So now they want to extend the day to 8 hours.
Ah, I see.
So you can work a kid 6 days a week, 8 hours a day during the school year. And
So they
she's
go
like,
to school for 7-8 hours a day and then go work a full-time job,
Yes.
essentially.
48 hours a week. And she says, after explaining this, it's not like they're sending them to go fight alligators in the swamp. That's what you would think they're making them do. And it's obviously not what they're making them do, Brett Cooper says, incredulously.
God, dude.
So, yeah.
That's so bad.
It's pretty bad.
A 48-hour work week would be a lot harder if you were fighting alligators,
It
but
would
it
be.
kind of sucks no matter what job you
Yeah.
have. Like 48 hours, it's not cool.
Yeah, I'm almost 30 and I don't want to work a 48-hour work week. That sucks. I've done it before and I hate it. It sucks. I wouldn't want to do that while I'm going to school full time.
I like how much these people don't have their finger on the pulse. Like the rest of the world and much of our country is like trying to dial in the work week a little bit. Like a lot of it is, we know, like even rabid capitalists know a lot of it is just like wasted productivity from their perspective.
Right.
You know, and Florida's like, nah, let's ramp it up a little bit. That's the way to fly.
Yeah. And they another thing that she says is that one of the reasons that we should allow children to work more is that children are too illiterate today, and the public education system is failing them because they're not literate enough, and therefore maybe they'll learn to read better at work.
The fact that people can't comprehend this is absurd to me. Another person said, we know who exactly the weakening of child labor laws are going to end up exploiting the most, right? Like, we know who the vast majority of kids who will need to work to support their families are, right? Literacy rates falling, and now they think the kids should work? Okay, well, buddy, the literacy rates are falling because our school system is a train wreck, and it is failing, and it's failing kids. So maybe, just maybe, we should try something else. Because obviously, kids focusing their every waking minute on school isn't turning out the way that we thought it would. I guarantee, I promise you, kids will gain more knowledge by working a job and having hands-on experience than they will sitting in a terrible American public school classroom and being talked at. And I know there are amazing teachers out there who are staying in public schools and they're trying to turn it around. I know you exist. I know you're out there and you're working for the kids. But on the whole, this system is failing children. And on that note, I loved this tweet. I think the schooling needs to be reduced and more targeted in math, science, coding, English, taxes, and business. All else is garbage. Out at noon if you have a job, and also high schools should have programs where they can help place students in jobs where they have high strengths. Absolutely.
So have we tried anything like that before? I mean, this is, this is an idea. It's a, there's like a empirical, we could theoretically test this, how do you get more literacy by education or by working? Adam, have we got any data on that? Adam's the history teacher.
Yeah, that's a good question, man. I think that we did do that at one time, and turns out it didn't help.
Really?
Turns out the best way to, become more literate is to actually study literacy and read and
Interesting.
write. And it turns out you don't learn a lot of that at the coal mine or at the Burger King. I don't remember any like grammar lessons at Wendy's. I worked at Wendy's and Sonic, at the movie theater, all that kind of stuff as a teenager. I don't remember learning much about literacy. I can't say that I did, at least.
What about you, Tom? Did you learn literacy hanging drywall?
Yeah, I was reading R.L. Stein on my little 15-minute breaks that I get, it's just ridiculous on its face, isn't it?
Yeah.
It's just
Yeah. So I've got a couple other stories that I wanted your thoughts on. We're talking about children, and Alabama's Supreme Court has recently declared that embryos in IVF clinics are people as it relates to Alabama state law. And so therefore a wrongful death lawsuit it can move forward against an IVF clinic because they spilled some of the frozen embryos.
I'll keep my initial reaction WMMT friendly.
Well, we're not live on WMMT, so we will be able to censor it if necessary.
Oh, okay, that's good. I've been sitting here wondering, like, oh, did I let something fly just reflexively?
No, we are not live. We are. This is going to be sent to them to play later in the week, so we'll be able to clean up.
Okay, yeah, this is just. I mean, like, what's alive, what's not alive is just such a race to the bottom always. Like,
right.
you know, it's like half the time I don't like nobody's engaging in that in the culture wars in good faith, so it's like not even worth like talking about in some ways. But it is just ridiculous that like there's some new gamete or organism that we technically are or is a part of us before we're actually fully formed that that constitutes life now.
Well, the thing that I found most interesting about it is that it just seems like they're pulling the trigger on this way too quick, because I mean it hasn't been but just a month or two ago that I heard from Republicans talking about Roe and abortion and all of this because that's actually been something that people respond to in the context of the abortion conversation, like, if you take this to its logical conclusion, they're going to outlaw IVF, and they're going to say that frozen embryos are people, and therefore we're trampling on their human rights or whatever, the human rights of these frozen embryos and eggs and stuff. And Republicans would turn around and say, that's crazy. We just want to, we would never do that. And it just seems like it's a little early for the Alabama Supreme Court to be like pulling this trigger.
Yeah, it seems even for y'all standards, it seems a little heavy-handed.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah, they won't let you kill an embryo, just grown-ups.
Right.
Just grown-ups. That's
yeah.
Well, maybe
or
14 and 15-year-olds on the job.
But only if you're a boss. Only if you're a boss.
Yeah, right.
You can't,
yeah,
you
that's
can't
right.
do it if you're
That's
anybody
right.
else. But if you're a boss, you can get away with it. I mean, the employer that was responsible for the death of that 15-year-old, all he got was fines, right? And this was a person who had been fined for safety issues in 2017, 2019, and 2021, right? So this is not a person that is new to OSHA. And still, even after all of that, all those previous fines, all he got for being responsible for the death of this kid was another fine. I mean, it's bizarre.
It's beyond parody, man. It's like, if I don't see how that's meaningfully different than like driving drunk and killing somebody. Like that wasn't obviously your intent, but
Right.
You created the conditions for something like that to happen. So, what's the,
No, I think that's a really good parallel.
punitive or get into that, but I'm just saying like,
I mean, if we've got the prisons already, I mean,
Just empty them and replace them with bosses, is what you're saying, I guess. Just a jail full of bosses. Yeah, I mean, I could get down for that.
You just saw a clip from the Valley Labor Report. We are live every Saturday morning from 9:30 a.m. till 12:30 p.m. And we pride ourselves on keeping all of our content free to everybody so that we can talk to as many working folks as possible. If you support the work that we're doing, you think that it's important, you think that it's good, then consider making a monthly contribution to the project, and you can do that on our website, tvlr.fm.